Life Class by Pastor Cesar Castellanos. Day 5. An Opportunity for Provision. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Luke chapter 15, verse 23 to 24. Speaking about provision, Derek Prince said the following: one distinctive aspect of God as He is revealed in the Bible is His abundance. God is not poor. He is not stingy. He is not limited. He is a God of abundance. His grace is abundant. His love is abundant. His provision is abundant. The consequence of sin, ultimately, is misery, poverty, and destitution. There is no abundance in the life of sin, but God does not leave us. He offers both pardon and provision. God offers us the opportunity to be reconciled to Him, to recover what has been lost, and to receive the provision we need. It is interesting to see how the Father in Luke chapter 15 calls for the fattened calf to be brought and prepared for a large feast and celebration. This speaks to us of provision. In the time of the patriarch Abraham, God spoke to him saying, "Take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Genesis chapter 22, verse 2. Abraham did not argue with God. He obeyed Him immediately. The next day, he took his son, along with his donkey and provisions, and traveled for 3 days until they came to Mount Moriah. When they had almost reached the place God has specified, his young son stopped him and said, "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Of course," Abraham replied. "The fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Genesis chapter 22, verse 7b. I believe that this was the most difficult moment of Abraham's life. Perhaps he remained silent, closed his eyes, and lifted up a prayer, saying, "God, help me. I don't know how to answer my son. How can I tell him that he is the sacrifice? Lord, give me a word of wisdom so that I can answer him correctly." That was when he received the greatest revelation anyone has ever had. He heard the voice of the Lord telling him, "Jehovah Jireh," which means God will provide. Genesis chapter 22, verse 8. Abraham simply said to his son, "Jehovah Jireh." When the time came for him to sacrifice his son, God spoke to him and said, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Genesis chapter 22, verses 11 to 12. God opened Abraham's eyes in a supernatural way so that he could experience the revelation of the cross. I believe that this is what Jesus was referring to when he told the Jews, "Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad." John chapter 8, verse 56. The patriarch understood that all of God's provision for man was to be found in the Son that the Lord would offer for the redemption of the world. The prodigal son received all of the Father's blessings, including the fattened calf, which represents Christ crucified. God gave the best anyone could have given. He did not bring just any kind of offering. He gave the best. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. John chapter 3, verse 16. The opportunity to experience an extraordinary life with Jesus is yours. Simply make the decision with all your heart to keep that appointment, even though you may have been canceling or postponing it for a long time. Now is the time. When you have had that marvelous encounter with Jesus, tell others about the blessings that are ours because of his sacrifice on the cross. Live the lesson. Number 1, what offering did God give for us that allows us to be sure that he always gives the best? 2, look up the following Bible verses. Haggai chapter 2 verse 8. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 8. Philippians chapter 4 verse 19. Number 3, based on the verses you just read, what can you conclude about the provision of God? Remember the lesson. All of God's provision is found in Jesus, who offered himself for the redemption of the world. Study the Word. Read Psalm 10, Proverbs 5, John 6. This audiobook is narrated by Paulin Lu for the purpose of helping life class students. No copyright infringement intended. All credit belongs to Pastor Cesar Castellanos and his team of translators, and all glory belongs to our Lord Jesus Christ.